Somebody needs to be to put everybody on. I can't mute because I'm not the host. Howie, can you mute everyone?
Yeah, I'll do that now. Just a second. Okay, I've opened up the Zoom on YouTube, and I'm making Aronala the host. I'll just mute everyone so that they can open the microphones.
They can. Eventually.
Okay, Aronala, you host now. You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Okay, so I think I'm going to mute. No, but then I won't be able to hear you.
I don't understand.
I'm going to mute everybody now.
Yeah, you're the host. You can make
Okay.
everyone co-host or whatever.
So actually,
Siona, now we can't hear you.
Siona, you're on mute.
I'm saying that I actually can leave and join the other webinar and come back or
Right.
whatever.
Or you can say hello and then go, whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. There's another 5 minutes.
קודם כל אנחנו רוצים לפתח מוטיבציה של תלמידים כמו בתחרות, שהתלמידים יהיו בתחרות, אבל לא בתחרות אישית, מאוד חשוב שתחרות תהיה במסגרת הקבוצה, כדי שזה ילמד אותה.
So I'm going to try to mute whoever's talking, and you guys will open yourselves up, okay?
I'm going on mute completely. I'm teaching.
Okay.
כל קבוצה יוצא
Okay.
Hi, Arona.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Do we have a YouTube link? Because there are people who can't get in.
We have a YouTube link that Howie prepared. I need to see it though, Howie, otherwise I can't share it.
Can you put it in the chat?
Sorry, I think the problem with the link is because it has been changed. It's not the same link.
The
that
link,
was sent.
the link that we had didn't work, so we had to put in another link. So I don't know how we can inform more people about that.
I've been trying to put it on the WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
also. Or I've
No, but
had
Simone
to-
sent the message. Simone sent the message in an email.
A lot of people sent messages,
No, but email. She sent an email.
okay. But not everybody's connected to Simone. Okay.
Yeah.
Howie was supposed to put the YouTube link in, but I don't see it. So I'm gonna ask him, then we can do it. We're gonna start in 1 minute. 1 minute.
Howie, you don't have to see the YouTube link, it just exists.
And it
You
would be
can
wonderful. We would
trust
really
that it's
appreciate it
happening.
if your name is in.
No, but if someone wants to go in,
Your name in English, please. And keep your name in Hebrew, but just add how we read your name in English.
okay. So we're gonna start. Oh, no, we have 30 seconds.
Do you need the last name too, or just the first name?
Arona, I'm gonna start on time. Just
Go ahead,
need
start
to-
right now.
Not that I have to introduce you. I don't have to.
But start right now.
introduce. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I see here very many familiar faces and good colleagues and from all walks of English. And you're all here in order to hear Arona answering very important questions on very important issues and very important students. We're talking about students with different needs. And I'm sure you're going to come out even more knowledgeable than you are already. I'm going to be joining another important program that we're starting now, and we'll come back to learn more about what needs to be done to help students that need help. Arona, you have the floor and everything else.
Thank you, Tsiona. Thank you, Tsiona. And I apologize for the confusion with the link that there were link issues. So I hope we're now issuely linked or linky did whatever. Okay. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to try to finish this within the hour. I thought that this might be an important thing to do because this is a year when everything we thought we knew, we now think we don't know. There's really nothing new. It's all the same, but we all have a sense that we don't know anymore because everything is inside out and topsy-turvy and upside down. And when I sat and worked on organizing all the things that we're going to talk about tonight, I realized that when people ask a specific question, there's a specific answer, but there's so much stuff to try to remember that sometimes it makes sense to put it all together. So what I tried to do is look at the most commonly asked questions and relate to them with regards to 3 populations. And that's what we're going to be looking at together this evening. Questions, I'm happy to have questions in the chat. I don't know if I'll be able to answer everything in the chat while they're being asked. But those of you who asked questions on the application form, I tried to relate to almost all of them. Feel free to ask questions. The talky questions we can have after 6 o'clock. Let's see how much I managed to get through here, and I'll try to answer as much as I possibly can. So we're going to look at 3 populations primarily today. Sorry, I don't know why this did this. 1 minute. 3 populations. We're looking at new immigrants, special education, and learning disabilities. And the reason I chose these 3 populations is because of the electronic dictionary for Module E. So we're going to get to it in each section. And I'm going to present each population and their accommodations. We're only talking about accommodations tonight. It almost seems like this is the least important issue. There's so many more important issues: programming, teaching, pedagogy, problem solving. But these are the things that people keep asking about. And we thought that it would be a good idea to sort of make seder. The link to this talk and all your questions will be up on the portals like soon, a couple days. And there'll also be a list of questions and answers. Okay, so you can just look at them because not everybody feels like listening all the time. Okay, so Sion and I are welcoming you. And I just want to remind everybody we're in day 102. 102. And it's about time everybody came home. And sometimes we wonder, with all these big things happening, how we manage with the little things. And what we're talking about tonight, they're little things compared to the big wide world that we're coping with. And sometimes if we can manage to relate to the little things, it sometimes helps our days because the big things are so overwhelming. That's what I feel. So thank you for joining me for the little things and for keeping the little people, all these little people, and people out that we are blessed to work with in our minds and in our hearts. Okay. So today we're going to talk about who we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about, and we're going to deal with testing accommodation. Okay, I think I'm going to find myself muting people all the time. I apologize for being extremely impolite, but I don't think we have a choice. Okay. Back to my screen. When we talk about testing accommodations, I think it's really, really important that everybody understand that we're trying, these testing accommodations might not make sense to us, or we might think that something isn't fair. They're really as good as as educational systems can manage, and we recognize that we're not trying to give everybody, to have everybody be the same. That doesn't seem to work. What we're trying is to give everybody access to the same opportunity of success. So when we talk about testing accommodations, what we're trying to do is to even the playing field a little bit. And so there's a lot of discussion about, and a lot of posters about equality, having the same level, making sure everything's the same, making sure that everybody gets equal whatever they're supposed to get. But we recognize that before that happens, we have to give equal opportunity to in a certain way so that more people are given more access. And this is a very little picture of a high stool and a low stool. If you go online, you find many, many, many of them. This one was a freebie, so I could use it and not get into trouble. But I also like it because it's very clear and it's not overloaded. When we talk about the accommodations, we have to also remember that they're not all decided upon by the English Inspectorate. There are different powers that be that work together within the Ministry of Education that have their own ideas and concerns relating to different populations. And as a result, the accommodations are decided upon together. Sometimes one group runs faster than we do. And I'll be more clear about that as we come to it. The Department of Special Education has a very nice quote. They talk about the individual, and they use Rabbi Soloveitchik's idea, where he said that every person, and we know every person isn't a number, but what he does is he says, every person is an individual with a unique personality, a character, and a destiny. And every person has a unique role to play in the world. And as teachers, we can help our students find that. And we're lucky enough to be teaching a subject that that does three things. One, it is the most modular of any subject, which gives us headaches galore and gives the Bagrut coordinators even more headaches. And that's why if there's ever a question about English, they come running to the English teachers, even though they're supposed to know a lot of these things. That's number one. Number two, we can teach what we want to teach through multimedia and different kinds of texts, and anything that we want to do, we can teach it. And the third thing that's special about English is that it's this longitudinal subject, and it's important even after we leave school. That comes back to haunt us, that it's important after school too, because we're always supposed to teach more than what many of the kids learn. Okay, so I talked about that. So I just wanted to clarify here that accommodations for new immigrants are dictated by the Office for New Immigrants of the Ministry of Education. They decide how they want accommodations given. Accommodations for students who require special education services serve a huge spectrum of learners. Can you see my screen? Does your screen say equality and equity on the top?
Yes.
So it's when sometimes we wonder about some of the special education accommodations, and we say, I have a 5-pointer and his English is really, really excellent. And he just happens to be an F7 special ed student. He really doesn't need the accommodations. This is a stupid accommodation. So it's very, very much important. Is that even a sentence? It's very important for us to understand that the accommodations are given or made available for a huge spectrum of different kinds of learners. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And it's not necessarily for our specific student. And I want you to keep in mind all the time that you, English teacher person, can really recommend what the best kind of testing is for your student. It's not always accepted, but you can recommend it. The accommodations for students with learning disabilities, and that's a whole big shebang, are under the auspices of the Department of Learning Disabilities and ADHD of the Ministry of Education. And we meet with them periodically to discuss the accommodations. Every once in a while, plunk, a new one is plunked upon us, and we have to try to figure out what to do with it. And some of you have already experienced that this year. Okay. For general information, accommodations are for Bagrut examinations. What does that mean? That means that really we don't have accommodations in junior high school. And really, we don't have accommodations in high school until they're officially approved. Special education students in junior high and high school might have some accommodations. And I think that's, junior high tends to be like the gray area. This has become a very, very gray area, very dependent on schools and teachers. And it's very tricky. We're not talking about junior high tonight, but it's important for that to be understood in the framework. And there's so many different terms used. So a teacher can call and say, "Latalmid sheli, my student has tara." And I say, "How do you know your student has tara?" And they say, "It's in the assessment." That's not enough. An assessment what's in an assessment is a recommendation only. The learning disability committees and the Malal committees in other cities where the kids have like a tik semel, they have to decide on the accommodations. What's written in an assessment that a child brings from home or done privately is just a recommendation. And we're sometimes stuck between the parents and the guidance counselors and the Bagut coordinators and the accommodation coordinators in school. Okay, the accommodations in Israel, and I'm just reviewing them all for our high school students, are extra time. And we have extra time this year. So all the kids that have extra time, all the kids that are allocated extra time, get additional extra time in light of the war, right? So if we have 25% extra time on a test, then there's the additional war extra time that's allocated. Students who are special education students are eligible for up to 50% extra time. And according to the Ministry of Education, Agaf HaBchinot, that extra time there won't be more than 50% extra time. All accommodations, including the COBE, exactly. Even some kids have, kids who have extra time, they now can have extra time on the COBE, and then they can have the extra time. And I always feel, and this is really not fair for me to say this, but I always feel that when we give them extra time on the COBE, lots of times that extra time means that they're gonna go back and correct something they shouldn't, or they'll erase something and then not have time to fix it. I always have nightmares about this extra time on the COBE. Okay. The reading accommodation, which in Hebrew is called Hashma'at She'elon HaBchina. It's not called Hakra'at She'elon, it's called Hashma'at She'elon, because somebody isn't sitting next to our student and reading to them, but rather they listen to it either with a chip or on the eye test. And kids who work on the eye test have the opportunity to type their answers. All kids who work on the eye test with a reading accommodation may type their answers. The typing is open for them. What's not open for all students is being able to record answers. And students who get permission for a reading accommodation and recording answers, that's what we sometimes call Mivchan Metukshav Maleh. Okay? Most kids prefer not to record their answers, but the ones who need it and must use it are eligible for it once it's approved. Another accommodation that's available is ignoring spelling errors when we grade. Remember that on we officially take off points for spelling on module C, on module G, and then on the literature internal exam. And this year, Agaf L'Lakuyot Lemida made a little bit of a minor change, not so minor, regarding spelling errors. We'll talk about that when we get there. Spelling errors, we have to explain to parents and to kids that doesn't mean grammar mistakes. We're talking about, I don't know how to say it in Arabic, so I apologize. In English, in Hebrew, we say shkiot ktiv or shkiot iyut, not ktiva, not safa, but ktiv. And I say that today because I was this morning where the teachers kept saying, yes, tauyot ktivat, tauyot ktiva. We're talking about tauyot ktiv, spelling. Wait, I'm muting everybody again. Thank you very much. Okay.
Can you repeat that? You're mute. You're on mute.
You muted yourself, Arona.
I see that. I muted myself toch kedei, trying to unmute everybody else.
Anna, do you want me to help you by muting people? If you give me
that would be lovely, Simone. I would be very
so give me co-host and I'll mute everyone happily.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Okay, now I just have to find you in the list of
okay, so
I found you, Simone.
Very good.
So now
Well
Simone will mute everybody
happily.
Okay. Thank you, Simone. Okay, so I'll repeat what I said, if I remember what it was. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So the spelling accommodation. When we talk about spelling, there's a confusion among parents and kids that spelling mistakes are actually, or could be, or maybe grammar mistakes. They're not. Grammar is grammar. Language is language. Spelling is spelling. Okay? So when kids who have this accommodation, which has become very rare,
Simone,
we're
you're
almost
doing
at
your
And then
job
she
well.
unmutes.
You're not doing your job.
I know. I muted and then she unmuted, so that didn't help. Lovely.
Perhaps you
Sabine,
need
thank
another
you.
co-host to do that. So much noise.
It's okay. But it's gotten better than it used to be. Yes, this meeting is being recorded because now it's on YouTube. Okay, so when we talk about spelling, it's really important to make it clear that we're talking about ktiv or iyut, and I don't know how to say it in Arabic, so I apologize. Not ktiva. It's not writing. It's not errors in writing. It's errors in spelling. We have to be very, very specific. Okay. Back to my share screen. And then we have the accommodation, which for English, as you all know, is only for special education students, and that's oral testing. Other subjects have oral exams. We don't. The only population of students that are eligible to be tested by a person on the written exams are kids who are identified as being special education. Those are all our accommodations. We don't have any more. I hope you notice all of them. 1 second. I hope you all notice what's not here, as you might have thought should be as an accommodation. And that is the dictionary. The electronic dictionary is not an accommodation. It is not. It is given to students in Module A, B, C, D, F, and G. And whenever teachers think we should give it to them. The electronic dictionary is not an accommodation. There are certain students who on Module E are eligible to have the electronic dictionary with them, and we'll talk about that at least 3 times this evening. Okay, we're starting with new immigrants. I'm talking about new immigrants because sometimes there's confusion with their accommodations. And new immigrants are given accommodations by the Department of New Immigrants. It's not something that the person in school has to sign them up for. It is automatic. Someone in the Agaf Bchinot fills this in. The accommodations that are available are reading of the test. They can listen to the test either on the iTest or on the chip. They can use a chip for modules A, C, and G, and on the iTest for modules A, C, E, and G. That means that right now, there's no chip for module E. Kids can only do module E with Hashmat She'elon, with the reading of the test on the iTest. And that is because students who have permission to listen to the test may use a dictionary. And so that the dictionaries aren't floating around the regular testing rooms, they have to be used only in the computer rooms or only in the computer rooms. Okay. Points are not deducted for spelling errors on module C. They are deducted for spelling errors on module G. Points are added, 10 points, to the final grade by the testing department for students who do not come from English-speaking countries. Okay? Students who come from English-speaking countries don't get an additional 10 points added to their final Bagrut grade. There's a lot of misunderstanding about these points. We don't give those points. We don't worry about these points. These are points that are given, added by the testing department at the end of the process. In module E, new immigrants may use, I'm just reading what it says here, may use the electronic dictionary, any dictionary from L1 to English. Okay? They can, and many times people ask questions, can they use this dictionary, that dictionary from this language to that? Yes, they can use whatever language they speak better. There's a lot of inequity here with the dictionaries because the Hebrew English electronic dictionary is much better than other language dictionaries. The Japanese electronic dictionary is really good, but I don't know anybody, not many kids need it here. There isn't an Amharic English electronic dictionary. The Arabic English electronic dictionary is not that good. So there's a little bit of inequity here. So what makes things actually more equitable is that nobody uses the dictionary. Ta-da! But I didn't say that. Okay.
May I interrupt the question about the new immigrants?
Okay.
It was written in the previous slide that new immigrants are allowed to use English L1 dictionary or electronic dictionary. So if they're taking module E, do they still have to sit in the iTest room or can they sit?
Yes. They have to sit in, they have to be in a separate room. They
Oh.
can't be in the where everyone else is taking the exam. So
Okay, thank you.
So I'll actually clarify that again, because I know that some of you only have immigrants. Some of you only teach immigrants, or some of you have a lot of immigrants. And some of them don't need the Hakra'ah, but they might benefit from the use of the dictionary. So if they need the dictionary, they have to be in a room that's separate from where the rest of the kids are taking the test. Okay? The idea is that the dictionary doesn't float around the regular testing room.
Thank you, Alana. Thank you.
Harona, do they also get this in the regular test? The dictionary, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we have, what about quizzes? I mean, we have many vocabulary quizzes.
You can just, quizzes, this is a policy, this is your decision. Okay? A quiz is your decision for all accommodations. We want our students to learn the words. We want them to learn the words. Maybe, okay, but maybe they have an issue with the language in between. How do you evaluate their knowledge of the word? And that's what you have to think about. Are you going to ask them to write in Russian or Ukrainian or Amharic to tell you that they understand the word? That's the question.
Like in the Bagrut, definitions. Or
definition. So if you do it like on the Bagrut, they get to have the dictionary.
So they don't learn vocabulary at all.
You can make them learn vocabulary, and we're not going to, I really don't want to spend a lot of time on this. It's a really big anger creating issue among everyone. The idea of the dictionary is an issue that will haunt us from here till tomorrow. The testing, the new immigrant department insists that these students have the right to use a dictionary on all tests in English, including Module E. You are the teacher. You are the teacher. You want them to learn the vocabulary? Excellent. They will learn the vocabulary. It's important for you, and most of our 5-pointers don't need the dictionary. We don't want to encourage it. In the learning process, it might be helpful for some kids who don't, they have to teach, they talk, and we can translate to Hebrew, right? What's that word, amora lo avanti? Or they talk to a friend. They have their Hebrew might not be good enough. The word that they hear in Hebrew might not be helpful. They might need it in Russian or Ukrainian or Amharic or Spanish or French. So think about what you're testing and what you want them to know and how you're evaluating that knowledge. Okay? And maybe the process has to be that in the learning process, you encourage the use of it for them so that they get the meanings. And then when they study and they come and take the test, they don't have it on the quizzes. I think I can't take questions now. It's 5:30, and if we want to finish everything else, we're not going to get there. So I'm going to go on. Okay. I'm happy to stay. a
Later
little bit
on, but
after.
later on, Arona, maybe there will be things that are
Maybe,
unanswered
maybe.
and then you can.
We'll go on. Yeah. I know I'm going to say something again about the dictionary. I know it's really difficult for us to understand how a test that evaluates vocabulary and the use of vocabulary can give some students the opportunity to use the dictionary. And when the decision was made by the testing department that certain populations would indeed be allowed to use the dictionary, Siona said, okay, we'll try it and we'll see if the kids who use or have the right to use the dictionary on these exams do better on average than the kids who don't, then we have to take the dictionary away because that's an unfair advantage. But what the data has shown us of the 5 years that we've had this test around is that their scores are 10 to 15% lower still. And that's because, for a whole variety of reasons, that's because kids who are not very good readers can't just glance at the words. If they're hearing the words, they have to go back and listen to them a few times. Their working memory gets in the way of remembering the words that they see on the left and the words that they see on the right, and the words that they hear. And they skip words. That's number one. Number two, the explanations, they also need to understand. So sometimes they've learned the vocabulary that you told them to learn, but they don't understand the explanations. And so they can't do that matching. And that's something that needs a tremendous amount of work. But people who have a learning disability, or people who are new immigrants and have a bunch of languages in their heads, or people who have special educational needs, tend to benefit from the use of the dictionary. If your student doesn't need it, he's not going to want it. It's embarrassing. A five-pointer, good five-pointer is not going to want to use the dictionary on Module E. He's going to want to take the test with the rest of the class. Okay. We're going on.
Excuse me for jumping in. You were talking about immigrants. How many years does a student have to be in the country to still qualify for these
From
atumot
Kita
as an
Aleph.
immigrant?
From Kita Aleph, we have 3 levels. We have 3 levels, Aleph, Bet, and Gimel, of new immigrants. And this is here you can access all the official information about new immigrants. And as far as English and the Bagud in English, from elementary school, the kids who come here from elementary school.
Wow. Okay.
Because there's
thank
all
you.
sorts of other things that go along with being a new immigrant, which some of us understand more than others. And
Like for an immigrant,
They're
like normally it's like 5 years you're in the country, or after 5 years you're no longer considered immigrant. So I'm asking
Right.
if a kid's
So,
in.
so if you want, you can look at this information and you'll have all your answers there. We're going to go on, but in general, the new immigrant office is adamant about these accommodations. Adamant.
Okay.
Okay. So I think I answered all these things. So we don't need to go on. These are the questions that appear again and again. Special education. We're talking about students in special education schools, students in special education classes in typical schools, and students included in typical classes with or without support. It's a lot of kids, and it's a huge spectrum of learners. And the testing accommodations where people tell you, Magia lo bchina ba'al peh. Okay, but maybe that's not the best way for him to be tested. And we have 2 voices talking in our schools. We have 2 voices talking in our schools, if not more. One voice is if he has the right to be special education. So the special ed people say, test him orally, you can help him. And they use the word tivuch, you can guide them through the questions. No, we can't. There's no tivuch. There's no guiding them through the questions. We can't explain questions to the students. We can't tell them what the questions mean. We can't tell them what the title means. What we can do, let's say for a child with vision challenges, we can tell them what the picture is a picture of. Okay? In Module A and Module C, we have pictures. And they can't see the pictures. So we can tell them what it is a picture of. Because the picture is supposed to help. So if they can't see it, it doesn't help. Okay? It's important to remember that the experts, okay, who's muting us? Thank you. The experts of English teaching in school are you. The special ed people might say, but this is what they should all be tested orally. We know that testing all of the kids orally completely is a time suck. It's a manpower challenge. It's an organizational challenge. Gam kacha, it's hard, okay? But the other thing is that some students benefit from working on the computer. The English department and the English Bagrut was one of the first Bagruyot to be offered on the iTest. It's a very, very people-friendly program. The kids can talk, they can listen again and again. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. It's not for the kids that need to stand up 95 times and walk around the room while they're taking a test. That bothers everybody and gets in the way. But it is for kids whose reading is not really, really terrible. They can follow and listen at the same time. The test is enlarged. It's highlighted. The questions appear under the paragraphs. It's very, very user-friendly. And it gives them a sense of success. And it gives them a sense of achievement. And that's often more important than the final grade. It requires maybe more work on our part to make sure it happens. And they give that they get enough practice. But it is very helpful. And we have whole special ed schools where all the kids are tested on the computer. And they work on that. So you can decide for your because of manpower issues, time issues, on the day of the Bagrut exam and on matkonot, it's nice to have kids that are working without us having to sit with them and run from room to room and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? But it's your expertise, your choice. And the last thing that we shouldn't do is say to the kids, well, do you want to do it on the computer or you want me to test you? You want to do it on the computer or you want someone to test you orally? What do they know? They don't know. Until they try it, they don't know. And they might not like it the first time, but they might like it the third time. Some children don't like to swim when they're first introduced to a swimming pool. I'm just saying. Okay.
אבל מותר לי, זה זכותי.
And בעיה, it's their right. And if they really, really want to do it, if they want it, and their parents have told them that it's their right, that's fine. But we have to make sure, we can also say, Nachon, it is your right. It might not be better for you. And why might it not be better? It might not be better because bing, 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 when we have a test that's shorter because of time constraints and money. That's the only reason that the Bagrut exams in English are shorter, because of time constraints. So each question is worth a lot more points. So if you make 2 mistakes, you can lose 28 points on Module G. 26 points on Module G. If you make 2 mistakes on Module G on a regular test and get most of your writing points, or a third or a half, you can get the same grade or higher. So it's important to do the balance and to see what makes most sense for each child.
Can I ask a question?
You can.
So if I have an F7 student who is not in a special education class, he's in my regular class, and so I should decide whether or not, or with him, whether if he does it face to face instead of the eye test, can I do it, or has to be another teacher?
No, it's another teacher in the school. I'll explain all that. There has to be another English teacher in the school. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So this is the population of kids who are under this umbrella. Okay, and it's important to remember they're not special ed students because of English. It's not because of English. English, difficulty in English or success in English is a byproduct. It's not because, that's not why they're recognized as special, having special needs. And in a school where you have special ed kids who are included in the regular classroom, they come with a basket. It's called a basket, a sal shaot. And some of those hours should be, for the kids who need it, should be devoted to working with them on English, not only math and first language. Okay.
Can I ask a question, Arona?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious how it came to be that for these FS7 students who are in 5 points, it works out that they don't have to do any writing task at all over the course of their bagrut.
All right, we can talk about this for 3 hours, but they actually have to do a lot of writing tasks because they're supposed to be writing, typing, talking, one of the 3, writing, typing, talking, for module F. And there's a lot of writing. And the idea was with module G, this is historical, but if the idea was with module G that we want them to do an entire unseen, to complete the whole thing. Okay, to read, go through the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So these are the accommodations. These are the accommodations, the general information that all special education students are eligible for. They're eligible for extra time up to 50%, computerized testing on the eye test, just reading of the test, just recording their answers, just typing their answers. Spelling errors are always ignored when grading, if they write or if they type. The spelling errors are ignored. Grammar not. Spelling yes. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't ask them to correct their spelling if they can, because you learn a lot when you correct your spelling. And all special education students may have the use of an electronic dictionary during every exam. And the clear guidelines of what questions are taken out, as you all know, are published 2 weeks before the bagrut, each moed. And there it says that on the exam, the teacher, the tester, can look up the words for the student, but you have to read out the meanings. You don't give them the meaning. You read out the meanings and they have to choose it according to the context.
Arona, I want to ask you one question, please. Me, Niveen, can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You just did, but now you can ask me another question. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple of students in my class. Who are better in talking and speaking, better than in writing? So what can I do for them? Is it, can I ask
One
them?
second, 1 minute, 1 minute. Are they special education students?
No, they are regular students.
So we're not talking about them yet. We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay. So it's important that we understand that these kids are eligible for face-to-face testing by a teacher in their school who does not teach them at present. Okay? The teacher must be registered on the Marvad expert site. Make sure you're registered on the site. Make sure you're always registered. That's how you get into the site. This test is graded in school by the tester, and the grades are uploaded onto the app that's sent to the teacher before the exam takes place. You all know this, but I want to review it because people forget. The test is shortened due to time constraints and people power. And we talked about the specific guidelines. Okay, remember. Accommodations are designed to be appropriate for each student. Students who will be able to are encouraged to work on the eye test or in writing with their peers. It's encouraging. You know, I meet taxi drivers or people who work in stores, and they say to me, "את כל הזמן בטלפון, את מדברת אנגלית, מה, את מורה לאנגלית?" And I say, "Yeah." And they say, "You know, I did my bagrut in English, but I did it bal peh with a teacher, with a teacher. It doesn't really count. I got an okay grade. I have my 4 points, but it was bal peh. It doesn't really count." So it is important. There's some kids where there's no choice. There are other kids where we can empower them. We can empower our learners. We don't have to be afraid of their lack of success. We have to believe in their success. Okay. I can just say that all day long. Yeah.
Sorry, I have another specific question regarding the Efes Sheva code. I just
Oh,
am
so
looking for.
there's no, so I'm gonna, Rivka, I'll explain. The
Wait,
Efes
okay.
Sheva, there's no
Okay.
such thing as an Efes Sheva code. Why not?
Okay.
Because COBE is computerized oral bagrut exam. And it's not
Fair.
computerized. You're talking about a
Fair.
face-to-face test. Yeah.
Face-to-face
Okay.
test. So my
Mhm.
question is, and I'm just looking for confirmation that Efes Sheva students do the old style Bagrut Baal Peh, where they're
Mhm.
asked questions,
Right,
personal
correct.
interview questions
Yes,
and
yes,
projects
yes.
only.
Uh-huh. Yes. Mhm.
Okay, and I'm just going to let the powers that be know that the rubrics for marking the old style Bagrut Baal Peh are very, very difficult to find on the portal /
No, they're on the
JC.
portal. They're actually easy to find. And if you write to me, I can send them to you immediately. Teachers
Okay.
who test oral, thank you. Teachers who test orally
Okay.
must. Okay, and this is what teachers have to remember to do. Read the text and the questions as many times as the student needs it. Look up words in the e-dictionary for the student and read the options. Write the answers to the open questions in the composition. Teachers who test orally must not explain the questions. Write answers that the students do not say. And correct the students' answers, language, and vocabulary when writing what the student has said. Sometimes we do that by not even on purpose. So I put that
Arona,
here. Hmm?
can I ask a question also about Efes Sheva students in the face-to-face test? I sent this question in. Are we limited to do the old test? In other words, can we add a section? Because my teachers are very upset that Efes Sheva students don't have any visual element from the old test. Can we add a picture or a video clip that they should talk about? Or are we, because we need an official answer, or must we only be limited to the old interview?
Right now, you're not only limited. Right now, you can, you test on the project, you see the project, you evaluate, you look at the project, and you actually talk about the project more than they do on the computer. If you want to test their ability to analyze a picture, right now that hasn't entered into the exam. If it does, you might want to do a pilot. I would talk to Tziona about it and see if that's a good idea. Okay? It's a nice idea to think about it, but then that has to be very, very defined. Pictures. Yeah.
So they also never have a listening comprehension.
Right. Because their whole test is listening comprehension. Hello. Okay. Students with hearing loss. They're not always considered Efes Sheva, so I'm putting them in a special category. I'm gonna mute everybody. When we talk about students with hearing loss, we have to remember that we have 2 levels. There are actually 3, but in English it's 2 levels of hearing loss. And each student. Why? I think we're all spending more time muting than anything else. So with the hearing loss, these students are evaluated by Shema. They do an audiological test. Their hearing is evaluated. And based on their level of hearing loss, they are allocated or awarded accommodations. And each student is different. And each student gets his own list of what he or she is eligible for. And so those students who are, we might be surprised by what they can or cannot do, what they are or are not eligible for. So we have this wonderful, 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 wonderful group that Nomi Epstein, who's the national counselor for Shema, opened. Here you can access it right here. And she also prepared a wonderful Canva to clarify the different levels of hearing loss and their eligibility and special accommodations. You can access it here. And not all kids who have some hearing loss are eligible to be tested face-to-face. Some of them must do the COBE. Some of them can be tested face-to-face. Some of them can opt out of that. And then there's a different, completely different Semel She'elon Rashi for those kids, because it's a different way of evaluating and adding up the points of their grades. Okay, but it's all through NOMI. Everything is through NOMI, and you can access it there.
May you send
Okay.
the link in the chat? The two links of the Canva and the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, I can do that. Maybe
Alona?
right now. Yeah.
Alona, a student who doesn't do the COBE at all because of the Shema evaluation, he was given the option of not doing it at all. You're saying there's a different Sema Shelon because his mark is calculated from E, F, and G.
No, well, exactly. So it's a different it's a different Semel She'elon Rashi. It's a
But he's not
different
doing
one.
the COBE at all. He's not doing he's not doing an oral bagrut at all.
Exactly. Right. It's a different Semel She'elon Rashi.
So there's still a Sema Shelon even though he doesn't do anything orally whatsoever?
Again, I'll repeat. I think you don't understand what I'm saying, so I'll repeat it. Okay. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna, for putting it in the chat. Because he doesn't do the COBE, okay, his grade is calculated differently. And therefore, he has a different top grade. When we talk about Semel She'elon Rashi, that means for 3 points, it's 016300. For 4 points, it's 016400. And for 5 points, it's 016500. You don't have to remember that. The Bagut coordinator knows. You also don't have to remember about this. It's just something that they have to take care of. The kids that don't do the COBE or don't do the oral face-to-face instead of the COBE and are exempt from it, that total Semel She'elon, I don't even know how to say that in English. What do we call that?
They get 33% for each module, no? A, C,
Yes,
D,
but
or
again, Nahon, but the idea is that it's a different number. The umbrella number, not the number. You guys don't put that in at all. That's the Rakezet Bagut. But the umbrella number is different. If you don't put in an umbrella number, then it messes all the rest of it. Okay? Yeah. No, there's Shoshi, there's no Mutam exam in English. Okay. We're going on. It's important to remember, and I said this, so I'm not going to say it again, but don't assume anything. You had a Shema student 2 years ago. You have a Shema student now. It might not be the same accommodations. So it's important to check it with your guidance counselor or the person in school in charge of the accommodations for Shema kids. Okay? Students with visual challenges. These students are also unique among the special ed students. And you'll see there's one thing that makes them very special. They're, of course, eligible for oral testing, but they are the only population that in English that can have a tester who tests them on the entire exam, reads the whole thing, and writes the whole thing, including the composition in G. And you might be surprised, you might not. Every year we have many, many questions about this from the counselors for the visually challenged, because a lot of the 5-point students who have a visual challenge want to demonstrate their knowledge of the language. They're proud of it and they're good at it. And so they have the option of doing the whole test. Okay? A reader and a writer. They can also just listen on the computer, but they can't always use the computer screen. Even the enlargement isn't big enough. And some of them have their own special device that's been approved by the Ministry of Education. So you'll see this with the students that you get. And they all have, just like the Shema kids, they all have a special counselor who knows them. She might not be from English, but she knows them, she knows the family, she knows the issues, and they're like her. These counselors are like the contact person for the parents if there's a problem, for the school, for the student. We have that for the Shema kids and for the kids with visual challenges. Before I go on to students with learning disabilities, I want to relate to one population that's not considered, doesn't have any special labeling at all. And that's the population of kids who have a stutter or a stammer. And it's really a lot. I'm always surprised at the numbers. In order for these kids to get permission to be tested by a person and not work on the code, the yoetzet, not the English teacher. Should I repeat that? The yoetzet, not the English teacher. The yoetzet, not the English teacher. The yoetzet, not the English teacher. One more time. The yoetzet, not the English teacher, has to ask the family for a letter from a professional that with a diagnosis of the stammer. It could be a psychologist, it can be a psychiatrist, it can be a speech therapist. Sometimes we have ear, nose, and throat doctors that write letters. It can't be a family doctor. That's not accepted. It has to be a real professional who deals with these kinds of issues of speech and stuttering. And people stutter because of mouth formations, brain mouth issues, and also because of psychiatric and psychological issues. We have something called a stutter and something called a stammer. And a stammer means things come out much more slowly. Stutter, they might say the same sound again and again and again. It's really, and usually the situation is worse under pressure.
Rona, can I ask a question about that?
Do you want, can I just finish?
Sure.
Thank you. So these kids, we need a letter from a professional. It can be from when they were 10, but there has to be a letter from a professional. And a letter written by the guidance counselor at school explaining that this is the issue. The child stammers or stutters, has a really hard time using the computerized exam, not because they don't know English, but because it just is very, very cumbersome. And it's also really difficult to listen to someone being like that's recorded like this. And then both letters are put on the Ma'arechet Bagrut Chadasha to Ahuva Saidov, Vadat Charigim. Okay? Just like all the other requests.
About this.
One second. They must be submitted for the moed of the exam that the student is going to take. Not when the moed is over, and not at the last minute, on time, when the moed opens, for all sorts of requests coming in. Okay? Remember that a child who breaks his arm or trips and falls or whatever, at the last minute, there's always a committee to approve these kinds of things. But this is not something that happens at the last minute. It's not something that happens at the last minute. You can collect all the stuff in 11th grade and then just submit it in 12th grade when they have to take the test. Yes, what was your question? Yeah.
My question, thank you. What about students from a lower socioeconomic level whose parents just will not go to a professional,
For someone who stutters?
Yeah, because the stutter is something.
Okay, so in those cases,
you can hear it.
In those cases, that's what the yoetzet has to write.
Okay. So in
those
cases, I can.
They write that בדרך כלל אין שיתוף פעולה עם ההורים בקשר לעניינים האלה.
Okay. And that should be enough.
The thing is that there has to be enough information.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And it's not only low socioeconomic. Okay.
Right.
We have to be careful not to generalize. Yeah. Okay. Next. And I'm gonna not share screen for a minute. The other population, and we have this on the website, on the portal, we say extenuating circumstances. Sometimes there are kids in our schools who have high anxiety issues, or they have severe retrieval issues that hasn't been identified as someone who has special needs. And a request can also go in, but it must, with a capital M-U-S-T, it has to go along with some kind of professional letter. It can't just be a letter from school. Okay, it can't just be a letter from school. And we have kids who have selective mutism. And many of them are also not considered even special ed. They just don't talk to anybody. They do everything in writing. So those kids too, you can request a human tester for them. And sometimes even they can be exempt. Okay?
Rona,
We have a lot of extenuating circumstances, like sad situations. Yeah.
I have a student who was kidnapped in Gaza. And he just starting to come back. And originally he wasn't F7, but now they're telling me that I can test him as F7, meaning giving them all. Is that right?
I wouldn't even say it's F7. They're eligible for all the accommodations that'll help them. Listen where they came from. Come on.
No, I'm not going to say his name, but I'm just saying that that's what I've been told, that I can test them face to face, the COPE, module E, everything he has to left, then I can test them as an F7. I just want to make sure that this is correct.
So I love this because we always talk about I've been told. Oh, the voice came down. Somebody told you. So if somebody told you, they got the information from somewhere. Yeah. The big capital they.
But it's not officially. I didn't see any paper or anything.
So if you ask to see one, you will see one. Siona, you want to relate to this, please?
I want to say that this is a special condition, and it has nothing to do with F7 or anything else. It has to do with common sense, and I would give all the accommodations possible.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, but I just want to relate to something. We can't even imagine what this child has been through. We can't even imagine what this child has been through. This kid deserves, I don't know, every possible award for bravery to be able to come back to school and try to focus on his present.
He's
so
not
whatever.
Actually, I'm going home to his house and teaching him
good
there.
Fine. So that gives, so all kids that are home taught can be tested face to face. All kids who are home taught at home. Okay. Yes, Andrea.
Yeah. Regardless of the war, if a kid has like you said, some kind of depression suddenly or anxiety, what would be the requirements that this kid needs to bring in order to be tested as F7? If it's something suddenly that happened.
Right. So a letter from a psychiatrist or from the hospital. Okay. We have many that are hospitalized and then they come out of the hospital. That you just need proof you just need that proof. Okay.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you.
Excuse me, Arona.
We tested at home. There's all sorts of things. Yeah.
Arona.
One second, Sherry. I just want to say something. It's not only English. These kids need help need recognition and accommodating and accessibility in all subjects. So it's not only English. Your guidance counselor should be taking care of this. If she has a question about what they're eligible for, you can always contact me or Agaf Prinot. Okay? Always feel free.
Okay.
Yes.
I asked the questions in the chat, but they haven't been mentioned. So I'm going to ask it now because she just mentioned something about students that are suffering from depression. First of all, I'd like to know what happens to pupils that have been relocated because of the war. They're F7 students. Will their new schools have access to their accommodations? My second question is, what about students that are doing online learning? They're learning on Zoom as one of our shluchot. And my third question is, what about students that have been admitted into the hospital and are learning in the hospital? Who is responsible for their Bagrut exams?
Okay, so I'll explain. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. So we have, this is not the first year where we have tons and tons of kids hospitalized. We have a lot of children that are hospitalized every year. And the way it works is the hospital does the testing. They have teachers there who do the testing. What has to happen is that those teachers, because the kids are not officially, they're enrolled in their original school. That's where they're enrolled. So the original school has to register the student to take the exam, and then they have to do the shiuch between the student and the new tester from a different school. Contact me. If you have kids like this, contact me. I work with the Marvad and make sure that the tester in the hospitals have permission to test the kids from the school. Okay? And the Efes Sheva kids who are in different shluchot will get permission to be tested by the people who are there.
I'm sorry. So I have to, I will write you a letter with the student's name and everything.
You'll send me a WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
Either you'll send me a WhatsApp or your Rakaz Bagrut will send me a WhatsApp, but first talk to me so that you really understand what you have to do. Okay?
Okay. Where can I get your contact information? Like direct contact information?
I'll put it, Anna, can you put it in the chat since you're so efficient with the chat? Thank you. Okay, we promised we would finish at 6.
Thank you, Arona.
So please feel free to leave.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit about students with learning disabilities now, and I just want to finish this up. Okay? Students with learning disabilities are the most complicated because they don't come with their accommodations. We have two parallel programs working opposite each other. Some of you have schools, are in cities where there's something called a Malal, Merkaz Lakut Lamida or Likuei Lamida, and in 9th grade, Atik Semel is created by the teachers and the psychologists and the educational evaluators at a school, and they come to 10th grade with their accommodations. Most of us are in places where the kids go through regional LD committees, and we as the teachers have to do our evaluation in 10th grade. The file is sent to the committee meets during the summer, and the accommodations are granted or not granted in 11th grade. Accommodations that are granted, we're talking about accommodations that are granted. If accommodations aren't granted, there's a process of appeal. Sometimes an appeal is successful and sometimes it isn't. The committees will not give accommodations in English if there's no discussion of English skills in the assessment, no matter what schools submit. And the committees will not even, the committees will also not approve the spelling accommodation if they don't see that there's really proof of a severe learning disability. Okay? So it's tricky, and the percentages are getting smaller and smaller every year. And if you have any questions or you want to talk about any student, please feel free to contact me. Okay.
These are something.
Yeah.
I just want to say that also the committees will not approve hatamot if the student doesn't have what they call talmidot. I mean, these kids who don't do anything.
Oh, no, there's lots of things the student wants. Yeah, there's a lot of things they want to prove. You have to prove, I mean, we don't really have time
to prove that the kid actually does something at school and he has difficulty. It can't be a kid who doesn't do anything. They won't approve it.
They also won't approve a kid who doesn't have what we call Ramat Yeda. If they don't have Ramat Yeda Batchum, if they don't have the knowledge, they're supposed to have a little bit of knowledge, they won't approve it. And there are many, many, many assessments that zap the English because they say lo yodea, lo yodea, lo yodea, lo yachol, lo yachol, lo yodea, lo yachol. That's it. Okay? So these things are important to pay attention to.
Arona, sorry,
Yeah?
you wrote these accommodations apart. Can you go back one? But there is also the double accommodation, right?
Right, but that's why it's here. We have the reading with recording goes together. And reading and typing goes
recording,
together.
okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Sorry, I think that there's room to mention over here because every year I know we deal with it in Kitot Yud, where as English teachers we're asked to, I forget what the term is, to test
You
them
have to test the
orally.
students, yeah.
But we can really be advocates for the students
Right,
who
you can
feel
be
as
advocates for
teachers?
students, but I'm going to interrupt you here because it's late and I don't want to take a lot of people's time. We can,
Okay.
what we write, and I have that as a question here. Just nobody ever waits. What we write as teachers is really important. If we say our student doesn't know anything, it doesn't help. But if we say that the student's made tremendous progress since we started teaching him, he's very, very invested. He's working really, really hard. He demonstrates the clear difference. And the assessment proves that there's a learning disability, then they have a better chance of getting the accommodation. The bottom line is that there has to be proof that there's a learning disability. And that proof doesn't come from us. Okay? That's also important for us to understand. So there's a form called Tofish 13 that your LD person in school gives you to fill in or sends to you. And what you write there is very, very important. And we're talking about making that form. Yeah. Okay.
When is the deadline, Arona? When
For what?
I mean,
For what?
for handing in all the materials so that my student can apply for the accommodations. If it's now
So your student, actually your student is not applying. Your student is not applying. His
I know
parents
the
are not
school is
applying.
doing it.
The
It's
school is
really right.
applying.
Right, I know.
And the school has it's in May sometime. But the Rakazot Hatamot, they start getting nervous in September.
Okay. If a student only wakes up by the end of does it mean it's too late?
The student wakes up? It's the
I
student's
don't know,
job to.
not only the student, like if the student wasn't willing to, or whatever, there was a problem and only at the beginning of 11th grade, we can hand
11th grade is too late to apply for 11th grade.
Right? That's
In
what I know.
11th grade, you can apply for 12th grade.
So
If
it
a-
has
if
to be done in 10th grade if I want it to be for the beginning of 11th grade.
If you want it for 11th grade Bagruyot.
Yes, okay, good.
Not the beginning of 11th grade. If you want it for 11th grade Bagruyot. Okay? Yeah.
Arona?
Okay.
I have a question. We are we are evacuees, and
I can't-
we
why
are
can't I-
we are
Oh, I
evacuees.
know, I see you. Hi, go ahead.
My question is, our COBE is now face to face, and my question is if I can test the student that I do not teach, and my colleague can teach the student that my student.
Yes.
Yes, Nita. Yes, Nita.
Yes.
All
That's an
right.
easy one.
Arona,
Yeah.
Thank
we
you.
have to fill out the forms technically when they're in grade 10 for when they get to grade 11.
Correct.
However, our school's been evacuated. Chances of us seeing our students this year are slim to none, unfortunately. How is this going to affect them next year when they're going into grade 11?
So they're going to have to have accommodations for that too. They're solving all these all these enormous problems as we speak.
So I can put my students at rest and say, don't worry about it. We'll worry about it next year.
We'll worry about it when we are told to worry about it.
Okay.
It's
Very good, thank
impossible
you.
this week. Yeah.
Pardon me?
Arona, are you going to address the questions in the chat, or should I ask them like this?
You can ask if I haven't answered yet.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is, we have a girl who's been evacuated to our school, and her teacher told me that she must be tested face to face, and I'm wondering if she's allowed to choose to be tested on the COBE if she prefers.
Yes, she does.
Of course
I mean,
she is
can,
allowed.
of course.
She does what? She can choose.
Of course.
Okay.
course.
I mean, I thought it was of course, but and my other question is, for some reason, our Rakazat Hatamot thought there's no longer a only haklata, but I thought I saw it on your list.
Of course there
You
is.
can get only haklata?
Right. If your reading is fine and we apply, the kid has really, really bad handwriting and there's a huge gap between his oral skills and his written skills.
Then he doesn't have to laklit, he can also laklit? Okay.
Can I ask one quick question? Because I did write in the chat, but I've always wondered the answer for this.
Go ahead, Tessie.
Yeah, when you had said grammar versus spelling mistake. So I was always wondering if, let's say, flies, F-L-I-E-S, is that a spelling mistake if they spell it F-L-Y-S, or is that a grammar mistake? Because you've taught them spelling rules for grammar.
It's grammar.
It's a grammar
It's actually
mistake.
vocabulary.
Pardon?
Fly with
It's actually
with
vocabulary.
Y-S is grammar, that's spelling.
It's no.
Of course it's spelling.
Can I just wanted to answer the question because I've always wanted to know. You teach them the
It's
the
a spelling. Of
rules,
course it's a spelling.
but it's
Yeah.
but you teach them the spelling rules for grammar. So if they
spelling rules.
But there's spelling rules.
okay, so if they but on the other hand,
Flies. What happens if they write flies? F-L-A-I-E-E-S. They know the grammar. They don't know how to spell the word.
okay, thanks.
Okay, here's a better one. He walked to the toilet. W-O-K-T. Okay? He demonstrates his understanding of what it's supposed to sound like. He knows the grammar. He spells it completely
You
wrong.
can't spell it.
Okay?
Arona,
Yeah.
capital letters, is that spelling or grammar?
That's spelling. It's called mechanics.
So everything under mechanics is התעלמות משקיעות כתיב?
Goes together. Mechanics
Also
and spelling.
punctuation.
Uh-huh.
So כאילו אז התעלמות משקיעות כתיב, punctuation, capital letters, spelling.
Right. Why?
Paragraphs.
Why? Because one of the things that's very, very common among people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and learning disabilities is they really, especially when they're under pressure, those little details fly out of their heads. And so the idea is let's get what they understand. I, however, when I teach, when I test, when I give a test, when I return a test, I do the following. I insist.
I'll set the table.
Make sure there's capital letters at the beginning of every sentence. Otherwise, I don't know where the sentence begins and ends. And the punctuation at the beginning, at the end of every sentence. Otherwise, I don't want it. And actually, if you work on it a lot, they learn. Believe it or not, practice makes better. Believe it or not. Okay.
Arona?
Yes.
Question here. I know that now with ACRA, if you don't have ACRA, you don't get spelling accommodations according to the new
Right, that's what I
format
said.
or
You're
whatever.
right.
But my problem is that I'm getting all these ifchonim of the schools that do not do it in the junior high, right? All this new ifchonim, and they keep on writing this spelling issue thing, like it's getting spelling accommodations, and I get parents.
So one second, so Melissa, so the idea is this, okay? The idea is this. There's a recommendation for a spelling accommodation. If the spelling is very, very, very difficult, strange, outlandish, and we see that there's an orthographic issue in English, in L1, in the first language as well, you can apply to the committee for it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Rona, I want to ask about the F7 students and the second section of E. They used to be excused from the listening comprehension. And if
I'll give you the answer. They are not excused from the listening comprehension. They do 2 of the vocabulary sections.
In the old E, they only did the unseen. They didn't do
Again, in the new one, they do the text and the vocabulary. 2
but
vocabulary.
they do it with the Milonit. They do it with the Milonit. They look up the
We
word.
talked about this, Varda. We talked about this 3 times in the past hour.
All
They do
FS7 students use the
They're
Milonit.
not higher, and it doesn't improve their grades, and it's still really hard. Why? Because of the way it's set up. The way it's set up. You're a good reader, so you just can glance, and you can glance, and you can. If I say, okay, who else is in this meeting? In 1 second, you'll be able to give me at least 4 names. You might not remember them in an hour, but at a glance, you can give me 4 names. If I struggle with my reading, that doesn't happen. That's why they're given the electronic dictionary. And the grades have proven, sadly, the grades have proven that it doesn't raise their grades. Their grades are not higher than the kids who don't have the electronic dictionary.
I teach mostly FS7 students, and I don't let them use a Milonit on the.
Fine.
But that's I'm
your
not sure,
prerogative.
and they improve tremendously.
Wonderful,
Would they
that's your
use it?
prerogative. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Also,
Ro-
if
Rona?
the student have to do
Rona?
the test in the.
1 second.
Steve,
Whoa.
Aziz, raise hands.
Can't hear anybody. I'm muting everybody. I can't hear anybody. Okay, so we're Sarah, Shoshi, and Orit. And then we're done.
Very short question. You said that if
And
they
Anat.
have really bad spelling, you have to apply to the VADA. Do you mean Vadat Harigim, or do you mean the regular VADA where you hand in all
Vadat
the
Hatamot.
same?
Vadat
The
Hatamot.
regular
No Harigim.
VADA. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful time. I have to be in another Zoom. Thank
It's
you.
nice to see you. We all have to be in other places. Shoshi, go ahead.
Hi, Iona. Thank you very much for taking my question. The prerequisite for any kind of Hatamot accommodation still has to be a psychodidactic exam, correct?
No,
Evaluation.
no.
Then
A
what?
didactic
Okay.
assessment. We call it's an educational assessment. That's
Right.
sufficient for a lot of things.
Okay. The second thing about we were just mentioning about E. I found that if children think that they are able to use a dictionary, they won't bother to learn synonyms. They won't bother to do any of that. They rest on their laurels that basically they have the dictionary.
So a
That's
lot
what
has to
degrades
do
it
with
so
a lot
badly.
of different things.
Yeah.
A lot has to do with a lot of different things. And you can do a lot of things with them. You can take away the dictionary, but they are
Okay.
eligible to use it. Okay?
Thank you.
And they might know the vocabulary, they might just forget it on the test. 1 second, Michelle. Sigal. We have so many questions. Yes,
I have
Sigal.
2 questions. One is regarding FHFA students. So I have some, so I need to the ones who are doing it orally, I should write the answers for them, right?
You can't test them.
No,
Whoever's
not
testing-
me, another teacher, right? But she writes the
Right.
answers for them.
Yeah,
And
the
second
guidelines,
thing is,
1 second, Sigal. Guidelines are posted 2 weeks before every single Moed. And it tells you exactly what you're supposed to do and what they're supposed to do.
okay, and the
Okay.
second thing is, I have an I-test student who's doing E-test this year. He's not an FS7. He's Akra, Klada, whatever. And can he use a dictionary or no?
Yes,
Only
yes. We said,
Really?
what I said today was new immigrants because they have permission for Hakra'ah, special education students because they have their special ed students, and anybody who has Hakra'at She'elon is eligible to use the electronic dictionary.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Anat, yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I understood correctly. You said that the students with any kind of problems, like sight problems or hearing problems, can choose to do the whole test instead
No, I
of.
didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. I said that students who have vision issues, they are the only special ed kids who can have the test read, the whole test read to them, and they can dictate all their answers.
Okay,
If
so I have such a student. But I know that the Semel She'elon is different, and then because she does the OB actually, like face to face.
That's something else. No, but that's something completely different.
No, she wants to do the G. She wants to do the whole G. Okay.
Fine.
That someone
Fine.
will read to her, but then it's a different.
It's not a different Semel She'elon.
Not
It's
the G.
016.
Not the
It's
G,
not-
but the OB. If she does the OB and not the COB, it's a different Semel She'elon, and
Yes,
then it
we
doesn't
said
go
that.
together.
Yes, it does. Of course it does. 585 goes with 581. Of course it does. And of course it does. And 582, of course it does. Of course it
That's
does.
what the Bagrut secretary once told me.
So the
that
Bagrut
they can
secretary
do.
might be confused with the numbers. Okay? She can
Okay.
call me. She can call Agaf Prinot. There's a Kav. She can call the Marvad. There's a lot of support. But I can also talk to her. Besimcha.
Okay,
No,
thank
no,
you.
but it's not your call, Rona. It's Agaf Abchinot or what?
Agaf Prinot.
Then,
She's confusing. She's putting two sets of numbers together that don't belong together.
no, that's an Agaf Prinot issue, ולא.
Yeah, it's 10 questions a day like that. Michelle.
Ahona,
Is it possible to practice the eye test in the E and the eye test? Is it
Of course.
available?
Of course it is.
Okay.
Of course it is.
Okay, I'm gonna ask my question.
Good.
If first just spelling accommodations, does a kid have to do a educational assessment, or can the school committee decide for
No
just
school committees for spelling anymore.
no school committee for spelling anymore?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
You just did. Now you can ask another one. Go ahead.
If I have F7 students, but no one who is taking the eye test.
Okay.
So anyways, I put them in a separate room.
So
With the
you have
dictionary.
FS7 students. 1 second. They're taking the regular test?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they have to be in a separate room, then they can use it. They can have the dictionary.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, Rona, can I ask something, please?
Yeah.
What about a student who has only Haklada and he's tested by via eye test?
He can't use the dictionary.
He cannot. Thank you.
He's typing because we can't read his handwriting, not because he can't learn vocabulary or remember.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask something?
Go ahead.
A
Yes, go
school
ahead.
a school in Be'er Sheva, which has students from Be'er Sheva, Netivot, and Sderot and Ofakim. Now, each place has different accommodations. So, how the Bagrut is going to look like?
Siona, you here? Oh, she left. So, did you hear the question?
Please repeat.
I'm asking about a school in Be'er Sheva.
Yes.
Which has students from Sderot, Netivot, Ofakim, and Be'er Sheva.
Okay.
Now, each
It's not the same
student is
by the way, it's not the same category. If you're at Netivot,
That's what she said. That's her issue. That's the issue, that they're different
not
categories.
the same category.
There's one class with different students from different places.
Right. It's one school with kids from all those different places.
Okay, so what's the question?
So what accommodations are each girl is going to get accommodations according to her local city or where she studies?
Yes. Also to name again from their teachers, from their schools. But the three cities that you mentioned are all from the same tier. So actually they get the same thing.
No, but there's also Be'er Sheva.
No, Be'er Sheva, no. Be'er Sheva, no.
Right, the
Be'er
school
Sheva
says
is the
Be'er Sheva.
hosting. Be'er Sheva is the hosting school.
Right. No, it's the school. Right.
It's the school.
The students from Ofakim, Netivot, and Sderot are supposed to get their accommodations according to their
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rona?
Ken.
I wanted to ask you about students from Be'eri. Actually, I have a student that her grandmother murdered, and she's a very good student, and she almost finished her log, and she's not able to finish it.
I'm sorry, all
Argaman Keida.
Otef, all students from the Otef are being taken care of. They have a special set of accommodations, and it's not relevant to the entire group over here.
Your inspector
is Judy.
Your English inspector.
No, it's not your
knows
English. She doesn't live in the Otef. She has a student from the Otef.
Yeah.
So, if you have questions regarding that student, then you should speak to Judy Siegel.
No, she's F7.
Guys, you're all talking together, or do I feel like it's...
Your inspector? Your English inspector?
Everybody's talking together.
There's an echo.
I'm muting everybody again. Boom. Okay.
One more question. What about them again? How many quizzes
saying
do you have
again,
to make?
everything connected to the three Otef schools, please speak to Judy. The person at the school, what they call Bet Sefer M, is responsible for the students' grades, name again, and everything.
Thank you.
There's a question here. Can a pupil doing the eye test also choose to write his answers instead of typing them specific? Of course. Of course. And the eye test now has a new feature, and they ask them right at the beginning if they're going to write or type. And if they say they're going to write,
Rona, since we're really,
Thank
some
you.
of the questions are repeating themselves, and it's already
this
6:30.
one wasn't repeated. We're done. I think
Okay,
we're finished.
okay, we're done, but I still want to take, we only have 139 people here, and I want to take this opportunity, number one, to thank you, but number two, to say that maybe there will be some brave teachers here who are willing to pilot the 3-point oral test. I think it's a
Exactly.
wonderful, wonderful, very friendly, very user-friendly, teacher-friendly, student-friendly test that is really worthwhile trying out.
For the 3-pointers, it's
For the
really a
3-pointers,
nice
the
test.
code for the 3-pointers. And
really
when
nice
you
test.
do it, you will be so satisfied. And I urge you to try. And there are no consequences of any kind. So, and it's not frightening at all.
The schools that did it last year were very happy that they did it. That's what I
Will
can say.
there be a Haredi version for the?
There
is
is
a
a
Haredi
Haredi version.
There is a
Actually,
Haredi version.
2 versions, not only
Excellent.
one.
Excellent, thank you.
There was one last year too, but because
Yes.
nobody signed up, we didn't use it.
Exactly.
Sign up, we'll use it.
Arona, where can we get, hi, where can we
Hi,
get,
Vera.
where can we get the 3-point test to begin with them? And can
It's
we
just
see-
like the code. You check the site,
It's-
you go to
It's
Matacha.
on the
you
site.
see-
It's on the
Okay.
site.
You'll
There's
see
Okay.
everything there.
Okay, thank you. And can we see this presentation again tonight? Is it
Yes,
possible?
it is being recorded. It's live streamed, even though we didn't have 500 people. I thought there might be. So I prepared a link that is being recorded, and it will be posted, I hope, on the portal if it's not too heavy, because it's longer than I planned.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just one question. I sent you a WhatsApp about the
And I
problems.
answered, and I also answered you, Lauren.
I didn't see. Okay, thank you.
See?
Can I ask a
Okay.
question?
I am I answered.
I think everybody has much better things to do than ask questions. Esty, ask your question, and then we're going to say goodnight.
Okay, I have a pupil who has Hakra'ah approved, and also Haklada in all subjects except for English. We're
No, he
trying
also
to
has
get-
Haklada. The minute he has Hakra'ah, he has Haklada.
What do you mean? He has a.
What I just
he has
said. I said it a few times. I'll say it another time. If he does it on the eye test and he listens, he can type.
even though he doesn't have the accommodation, the
I
official
just said
thing
that.
doesn't-
If he has Hakra'ah, he can type. All the kids have that.
Okay, but not record.
Not record.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Arona, thank you. It was lovely. Thank
It
you.
was
as
nice to
usual.
see all of you.
Thank you.
A great night.
Stay safe, everybody. Be well. Pray for good things.
Good night. Have a quiet evening, I hope.
What did you say, Sherry?
I said, I hope we all have a quiet
I'm
evening
closing
tonight.
Quiet
the room.
evening.
Good
A
evening.
quiet
and
evening,
safe.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Arona.
Thank you.